probably took, seconds, right, for my cousin, who was quicker than my dad, to pull me in by the ankles and save me. But in that split second, that's when I met Mother Mary. Watch for the false flames. There's a lot of those too. There's, karmic relationships are probably, I think, the thing that have hijacked the divine masculine the most. It was like not just lighting a candle, it was like a forest fire when he woke me up. I really, really woke up, right? And I really got it.
Welcome to Beyond the Veil, stories of twin flames, divine union, and mystical encounters. Sit back, relax, and listen to your story today. So my next guest is my really good friend, Lori Tierney. She is a mystic, a healer. She's a channel for Mother Mary. She works out of the Center for the New Age in Sedona, Arizona, and she's also in the corporate world in Los Angeles. And I'm so excited to talk to you. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Kimber. How are you?
So good. So
good
good. We met many, many, many years ago in a yoga teacher training.
We did. We did. And it was wonderful to meet you and spend that time, in the yoga training together. And here we are, years later, and you're, a famous celebrity podcaster. And I'm not quite sure. I'm quite sure what I'm doing, but no, I am. I'm grateful to be here with you.
Well, I'm so grateful. I tell the story a lot about, just before you start your story,
Okay.
when I wanted to be a healer, and I knew that's what I was supposed to do, and I knew I was supposed to do yoga teacher training and whatnot. And then we landed in the same class, and there were only 3 people in there, which was crazy. It was such a gift and you're Tierney and I'm Tiernan, and it was just kind of cosmic that we were just like
our names, right?
Yeah. And there was this instant connection. And I remember when I started doing it, you probably don't even remember this, but my body never hurts. That's not my thing. And my knee hurt and my hip hurt. And it was like I couldn't do yoga. And here I am at my yoga teacher training, so excited to move forward in my life. And I'm locked and I can't move my body. And you said, can we go over to Palisades Park and I can feel into the energy and see what's going on? And I was like, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you felt on my back and you're like, oh, you have a claw in your back. And I was like, really? And you're like, yeah, there's this claw of a woman that's holding you back and doesn't want to make you move forward. And I was like, oh my God, there's a woman that put a curse on me. And I literally call her the claw.
Oh, wow.
And you were like, oh my God, you're like, do you mind if I pull it out? And I was like, please do. And you pulled it out and I was free. And we went back after our lunch break and my body was back to normal. And so it was really great to see it in action because I've never met someone as gifted, if that makes sense. So,
well, again, we're all conduits, right? For spirit. We're just blessed when they come through and facilitate. I'm just a facilitator, the conduit, just like you. And we know that, but yeah. So, but thank you for that. I'm grateful that I was able to help you with the claw.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know. So anyway, Lori's been on a twin flame journey and she's also been in relationships. We were talking right before for 50 plus years. And so she has a lot of wisdom to impart. So please go ahead and tell us your story. And if I feel like interjecting, I will, and we'll have a conversation afterwards.
Well, thank you, Kimber. I'm going to start the story just briefly when I was little so that people have a context of how Mother Mary came into my life at a very young age. I was about 3.5, almost 4. I'm from Los Angeles, actually grew up in Pacific Palisades. So, again, we're broadcasting this on January 17th of 2025. And, our hearts go out to everyone there. Everyone. I mean, I'm devastated. But anyway, I was at Pacific Ocean Park on the pier in Santa Monica. And my dad was with me and my cousin. His name was Dan, and he was 14. And back in that day, because I can tell you how old I am when we do the math on how many relationships I've been in and marriages. Anyway, they didn't have those bars, where they would tell you on the ride, like at Disneyland or something, that you can't ride this ride if you're too short. It was before that safety device was there. So they, of course, grabbed me onto the roller coaster, put me in the middle of them. And the bar, didn't come that far because I was too little. And it was at night, and the roller coaster went up, and then it went down over the ocean. There's a banking turn, and I flew out, and I was light. So when it whipped, I flew out and up over the bar. And that probably took, seconds, right, for my cousin, who was quicker than my dad, to pull me in by the ankles and save me. But in that split second, that's when I met Mother Mary. I mean, it was like I went into the void. People say, go to the light. This was the void. It was dark. The ocean was dark. And there was this being, illuminated being, who came and did what you would call that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, right? Where they show him what's going to happen if he's there and if he's not there. Well, that's what she did to me. And it felt like, again, it was split second, but for me, it felt like, she was talking to me for hours. And she showed me my mother, who would go on, if I left my body right there and went into the ocean, you leave your body right now, your mother's going to go on and have one more child, and that child is going to be a boy, and he will pass away at a young age, which is exactly what did happen. And I was like, that was what got to me, whatever she said to me. Remember, I was little, but I was an old soul. And she said, you do have a mission here on the planet, and you have free will. You can leave, or you can stay. And if you stay, your mother will have only lost one child, not two. So I did. Right when I made the choice to stay, my cousin grabbed me by the ankles, and he pulled me into the cab and sat on me so I wouldn't, fly out with the rest of the ride. So that was the near-death experience that really started my entire journey, right, in this lifetime, and my, amazing love and connection for Mother Mary. So I had to share that part so that people understood this goes way back. And I did take a peek at my lifetime. She showed it to me then, and that was probably why I wanted to go.
I hear you.
Right? It's like, oh, you got to be kidding. I didn't sign up for that, right? She's, yeah, you missed all the meetings, so we gave you those deals. No. So those soul assignments went to you because you didn't show up for the meeting. Anyway, so that's how the kind of spiritual world began for me. But then it became quiet, until I got a little older. And I ended up in a cup, wanting, I think what everybody does when you're a small child. I think you talked about luminescence, the other day on one of your podcasts, and I loved it because, am I saying that correctly?
Limerence.
Limerence. Sorry, limerence. I can't even read my own writing. And limerence is like this fantasy world, right, that you create when you've had such trauma. And I had a lot of other trauma as a child too. So I did that with Barbie dolls. I would create this fantasy world, and I would have Ken, and I was there, and we had kids, and we had four, and we named them all this stuff, right? I created this whole fantasy of what I thought my life was going to be, with the perfect Prince Charming, right, or the perfect guy. And obviously, so when I was pretty young, I was about 19, I got married in the Palisades, and was married to a wonderful man. But and I had my son, and the woo part of that is my son was also my brother that passed at the age of 9 months. So he came back in through me, which was a blessing for my parents because they got to spend time with him, even though he was my child. He treats me more like a sister than a mom. So anyway, so that was a gift actually from Spirit for him to be able to come back through me. And so that marriage lasted, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. I was still in Dubuque, Iowa. I don't know. I had something about Iowa men, and I married the local undertaker after the first marriage. And we were married for 9 years. So, and he just passed away this past year. So he was a wonderful person, and I kept his name. He saved my life in that place that we lived in Dubuque, Iowa, and he was a wonderful, wonderful partner and soulmate. And so when I went back after that marriage ended, and I went back to Los Angeles, I kept the name Tierney. His last name was Tierney, so I honor him with that. And then I met my twin flame. So it was probably when I was in my about mid-30s, and it happened in Los Angeles. It was and it was facilitated through Jim, my former husband, Jim Tierney, the one that was the Undertaker. He was in Los Angeles with me trying to become an actor. As why do you go from Iowa to Hollywood? You want to be an actor. So he was in an acting school on Robertson Boulevard with my twin flame's current wife at the time. I know you need a program to keep everybody
Oh,
straight.
I've got it. Yeah, that
Got
makes
it,
sense.
right.
That's all making sense.
Yeah, they were in acting school together. And um, the woman that was married to my twin had mentioned to Jim, well, her husband was a fairly big wig in construction, and he was going to have to build something that was really difficult, and he needed someone who did interior design and furniture for commercial buildings, which is what I did for most of my career for like 40 years. And so Jim said, "Oh, he should hire my wife, Lori." I mean, she does that. And he handed her a copy of the LA Business Journal Book of Lists. For anybody who's out there in the corporate world in LA, they know that that's a kind of a reference guide of who's who in business in a variety of capacities in Los Angeles. And so I happened to be in at the top of the list for that particular category he was looking for in that edition. So what that did was gave me some sort of, credibility, I guess, with him. So he did call me, and we did meet. And I met him at I think it's the Oracle building now in Santa Monica. It used to be National Medical Enterprises, and that was the client we were working with at the time. It's over there across from the Water Garden. And he set an appointment with me to meet him in the lobby. And I'll never forget the meeting because he was standing in front of a full wall painting that was done by Laddie John Dill. It was an amazing piece of art. And he had quite a big stature. He was 6'4". He's a big guy. And, we all have our type, right? Well, I always liked guys that were really big and tall. Of course, I didn't end up with those people, but that's what I liked. And so I was probably instantly attracted to him for that reason, just because of how he looked and his command and presence and knowledge of what he was doing. He was, was like somebody I'd never met before. But it wasn't what I would call like some sort of an instant thing, that instant love, either way. But I can tell you when we went into an elevator together was when I felt the energetic connection. It was as though there was some electrical current, going into my heart chakra. So it was like a current of energy, and it was like buzzing because he was standing next to me in a very crowded elevator. And I could just feel this buzzing electricity between us in that particular moment. So that's what got my attention. And anyway, we went on to work together. I helped him with this project that was very difficult, and we ended up, ultimately probably about a year later falling in love. The connection was certainly there. He was awake spiritually at the time, even though I had had the near-death experience as a child. I had kind of shut a lot of that down. I was starting to seek out why a lot of bad things were happening to me in my life, and so that was waking me up. But he was awake and I was not. So he woke me up. And then, at one point in time down the road, I think we're climbing the mountain together, right? Spiritually, we're on point. We're doing all this stuff to help humanity. We're on a mission. And I turn around on the mountain and he was gone. He was back down on the ground. He just left. So you just never know. There's free will. And so we did, we lived in Malibu. We had rented a beautiful home there. We had what I would call a pretty beautiful, idyllic, blissful life. But I'm always cautioning people about being over here. I know you know this, Kimber, over in bliss, the opposite being complete despair. And as our friend the Buddha says, take this middle path, be neutral, stay in that neutral zone. Don't swing way over here or over here, stay neutral. Because if you swing over here, you're going to get the polarity, right? Which is
Right.
which is what happened. It was so blissful for about 8 years. We were married. We got married in Cabo, San Lucas, at a little whitewashed church, Mexican church. It was a beautiful ceremony.
Wow.
It was. We worked together. We ended up in business together. I had my mother and my second mom. He ended up building a wing on a house for them to live with us. I mean, it was just like, I thought everything was pretty amazingly wonderful, but all of a sudden, it turned out not to be. And I didn't see, I thought, when you're tracking somebody spiritually and that you think that you're on, and let's just say, for example, that we knew we were twin flames, and we knew that we'd been together many lifetimes, and we knew we were here at this time, for a reason. We had ascended masters telling us our mission. It wasn't like we were operating in a vacuum where we were just guessing. We weren't guessing, we knew. And we were surrounded by amazing beings of light and spiritual experiences that were happening, that were physical, not just, not just something you're seeing in your third eye. So
Wow.
anyway, we ended up moving to Arizona and that was after the fire that happened, that one really bad fire in the 90s, right? In Malibu.
Yeah.
We were
Uh-huh.
on Sarah Road. So I believe they just had another, bad fire right in that road. And we didn't know when we left our home that night if, when we went back, they let us back the next day, if the house was standing, and the fire had gone around the house. So we were just completely surprised and blessed that the house did not burn down for us, but it did for so many. And it's just so tragic. But that was kind of a catalyst for us to say, okay, it's time to leave LA. We kept feeling like, I think it's time to go. So we moved to Arizona. We moved to Phoenix. He had 2 boys and they were still in high school. My son spent his last year of high school with us there in Malibu, and then he was off to golf academy, and he's a PGA golf pro, and he's amazing. He's my rock in this lifetime, my son. And we ended up, in Arizona, and we ended up doing a lot of spiritual work. I mean, he was encouraging me to spend time painting. I'm an artist, and I'm painted a lot of amazing things that are spiritual paintings. And so he gave me the space, he gave me the encouragement, and he gave me the financial resources to be able to do those things, kind of without any attachment to having to worry about whether you're going to make the rent or any of that, right? What a gift, right? That's a gift.
Such a gift.
When it goes away, you're like, oh my God, was that ever a gift? So
100%.
yeah. And he gave me a diamond that was like I don't know, 4 or 5 carat princess cut diamond, beautiful wedding band, diamond necklace that, I mean, I'm not a, jewelry person per se. I'm not, I love great things because I have design background, but it wasn't, it didn't impress me, but yet on some level it did, that he was so generous, romantically generous with me. So unfortunately, one of those rings ended up in the lake in Calabasas when it all ended. So, yeah, it was like, all right, I'm pretty good with throwing jewelry in bodies of water, so it's best that I don't have something too expensive. Anyway, so we ended up, though, in North Scottsdale. We had a couple places in Arizona. We ended up in North Scottsdale in a beautiful home that was, it was probably your dream home, right? And anyway, we had an office there as well, and we were moving our office, so we were working that day in Phoenix and trying to box up the office and whatever we needed to do. And he said, I'll meet you at home. So after we did all this work. So I went home, went into the master bedroom, and I walked into the, had a big walk-in closet, his side, your side, right? My side. I walked in to the closet, and his entire side was empty. So he had somehow managed to clean, while we were working together, boxing up the office, he had managed to clean out his closet and move everything out of the house without telling me that day.
My God.
And that was on a grand cross alignment. So I was not an astrologer, but I do know there's some amazing things that can occur with squares and crosses and alignment.
Mhm.
And it was in August, and it was a grand cross alignment. And he was, I was devastated. I had no, because I didn't have really I had some warning. I was warned by one of the ascended masters, but I had some warnings that I didn't heed. One was I was in the Phoenix airport. I was spinning around looking at a flight. A friend of mine was coming in from LA, and my ring went off my finger. My diamond ring was gone, right? The 5-carat diamond. And so this was sort of a woo experience. And I spun counterclockwise to look at the flights. The flights were above in an overhead circle. And when I spun over clockwise, I felt this prick on my ring finger. And I looked down, and the ring was gone. And it was on tight. It did not just fall off, right? Everybody's like, oh, you lost it. It fell off. I'm like, no, it didn't. And I looked up, and there was this portal that opened in the airport, and it looked like a big geode, right? And there was a man standing there, and he looked like Father Time. He had on a white robe and, really white beard, white hair. And he said, we have your ring for safekeeping in our dimension. So, that was probably a pretty big sign that, this wasn't, something was going to go down, and this wasn't going to work out, right? That my ring vanished, and it just poofed into another portal, another dimension. The wedding band was the one that ended up in Calabasas Lake, but the large diamond ring apparently is still, in a dimension being held for me or whatever, or him.
Wow.
So yeah, I know. So that was a sign. I mean, so there were signs like that. That was pretty profound. And I mean, at that point in my life, I didn't want to believe it though. I didn't want to, I mean, that they gave me a huge sign. Saint Germain as well gave me a huge sign saying, he's going to leave. We feel he's making a free will choice to go. And he said, he's not just reading from, I said, but we have an agreement this lifetime, right? Our agreement is to be together, and our agreement is to do the work we're here to do as twin souls, combining, together, which creates, an amazing, as energetic field. And he said, he's not just reading he didn't just turn the book up. He didn't just read from a different playbook. He took that book and he turned it upside down. Basically, he said he's not reading from the same script anymore. He's made a different choice. And I say that with all love and respect for him. Even to this day, he made a free will choice to not be with me. He decided to marry the girl that used to do my nails for me. So she was a friend, I thought, a personal friend. And love them both, but that's what happened. And he took off and married her. They were together 14 years. He divorced her, and now he's we aren't in touch at this point. So he needed to have that experience for whatever reason. And I think it's really and I mean, I made a choice in that moment to stay yet again, not just like on the roller coaster. I made the choice. Because Saint Germain said to me, he said, you got to make a choice, or you're going to be out of your body too. I was ready to go. Because I couldn't see my way clear of how am I going to create my life path without him.
I've been there, and it's devastating, and it is like you just want to leave planet because you're like, wait a minute, that's not the agreement.
That's not what I signed up for. First of all, I signed up to be the man in the relationship. I was supposed to be a male, and at the last minute, he flipped it and decided for me to be female, and he was going to be a male. right before I came in. And I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't the deal. So I came in as an Aries, which is, obviously fairly
Uh,
masculine. So,
masculine energy. Oh my
yeah.
God.
So I've had a whole lifetime of trying to be feminine, which hasn't been easy. Anyway, he
Wow.
he just changed the script, right in the middle of the play. And I was like, wow. So I did choose to stay. I had so much support from my guides. I had friends, I had family members that were helping me. I probably wouldn't be here with you right now had I not had that kind of spiritual support and path. Being on such
Mhm.
a devoted spiritual path, I wouldn't have made it. Um, and so I was physically there in the house with the empty closet, left with him gone. And I had, my mom and my second mom, kind of like these two older people living with me, and kids that were kind of coming and going. And so I thought, well, what do I know? I have to, obviously, we were also business partners, so that wiped out my income. I said, I have to go back to LA, and go back to the work I did when I met him, find my way back to somebody who would hire me for a job, and something I know with a name. I changed my name to the one I have now, because people in the industry that I was in before knew that name. So I had to do whatever I could to just survive and
Oh my
figure out
gosh.
how to find a job and move. And the hardest part was we had this big home and there was no, no, I find myself moving with no guy help, right? So I was praying for some help, and I'm like, how am I going to get all these heavy boxes and all this stuff into this truck? And my friend was driving the truck. This is how bad off we were, right? It was like
Oh,
I'm driving the U-Haul back from Scottsdale to LA. And all of a sudden, these two guys showed up knocked on my door, and they were Mormon missionaries. And they were trying, my aunt who was living with us was Mormon. She did not call them. They came just guided to doing what their work was. And they stopped by, and I said, well, I know a lot about the Mormon religion and the Book of Mormon and Pearl of Great Price and all the different teachings. Because when I was a little girl, she would take me to Sunday school with her. Then they were surprised.
oh,
Their eyes were very big. And they said, well, we're here to teach you all that. And I said, well, what I really need you to do for me right now is help me move. And so they did. They helped me. They helped me
oh,
put
that's very
their
kind.
muscle, right, and put the boxes in the truck, and help me in that way. And I thanked them, because it was, it was challenging, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my mom, but we ended up putting her and my aunt in a condo in Palm Springs. And of course, this was right at Christmas, right? So this was the first Christmas I spent alone in a Jewish deli, moving my mom into a condo in Palm Springs. I found myself sitting there when everybody else was probably enjoying, holiday meal or whatever. I'm sitting there, and I was like, well, I'm going to go to a Jewish deli, because I know at least I'll get good food while I'm doing this. So yeah, so it was pretty traumatic, right? All that it was really
Did
traumatic.
you not get money from him or anything?
A little bit of money I got from the necklace. I took that to, downtown LA. And of course you never get anything,
Never.
that somebody paid retail for a diamond like that. The other
Wow.
diamond ended up with Spirit, and then the other one I ended up throwing into Calabasas Lake. Yeah, he helped me a little bit, but not really, nothing like you would
Wow.
expect. Uh, but I tried to stay, friends with him, and on the work side, do some work together, which we did a little bit after I healed. And I don't know if he's still healing. I'm sure he probably is, but I think it's important. The story is important in the sense that this was 1999, roughly. So what are
Mm.
we, 2025? And there's a lot of people that come and talk to me, and I do a lot of readings and spiritual work in Sedona here with people who are on twin flame journeys that really believe that that person is going to be there tomorrow. And there's a thing, as you know, spiritually called waiting, right? When you say you're waiting for something, the universe gives you more waiting.
Oh, 100%.
right? So you're going to be waiting your whole life.
Or if I'm looking for my soulmate, oh,
Yep.
you love to look.
Yeah, yeah. Look to look, right? We'll just let you keep looking, right?
Yeah.
So there is this I'm seeing, and I know you talked about some of this on your podcast, whether you're seeing a lot or a lessening of twin flame journeys. Well, I'm seeing an uptick in the people that are coming through and talking with me here. And I'm seeing people from around the country and in Canada. And I've done readings for people in Afghanistan, you know, a lot of couple readings,
Yeah.
India, wherever they're from. They come to Sedona because it's such a spiritual mecca, right? And they
Mhm.
want to find a vortex. The whole place is a vortex.
Totally.
But I am seeing quite a few people on twin journeys here.
Oh, I love that.
Quite a few. And some, um, again, really believe that the person, even if they go and they get engaged to someone else or they are going to marry someone else, they're going to wait, right? My advice is to not wait.
Hmm. I
My
agree.
advice is to not wait because you're going to miss your whole life. I would have, you know, so fast forward after I regrouped in Los Angeles, I met a wonderful man that I've been, you know, with for 26 years and
Mm.
soulmate. And I wouldn't have probably met that person and he wouldn't have enriched my life if I hadn't let go of the notion of I have to be with my twin flame.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to let go. I mean,
It is.
I've had a really challenging time. I mean, I have my Mars and Venus on top of each other. I'm full 12th house person, and it's really
Oh
hard. 6 planets in the 12th house, and just all
my
sorts of
gosh.
things astrology wise. And I wish I could go back and tell my 30 something self, like, go
Yeah.
find a husband because I didn't. I just held on, and it's
Yeah.
been a lifetime of that, you know?
Absolutely not. Yeah. No,
Mhm.
like I said, I was kind of a serial monogamist. I've been married 3 times, and then the fourth one, that I just mentioned, he's wonderful for 26 years. We did not get
Aw.
married, and he was married 3 times before, and we just said,
You
let's
guys are
just,
still involved?
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember him. Oh, that's really sweet.
yeah. He's not doing super well health wise right now, but he is holding his own, and he's a wonderful friend at this juncture of my life that I
Yeah,
would have in my life, if I had waited
I
and
love that.
and
For
decided.
you, what's the difference between being with your twin versus being with one of your soulmates?
I can say that there is a, I think there is a energetic connection. I know there's an energetic connection, right? That you take one, hopefully one hole and another hole, right? You put them together, but we met when we weren't whole, so that was unfortunate.
Yeah,
We were supposed to, I think, help each other become whole, but that wasn't a really good playbook, by the way. So I would sign up for that one again. Um, but there is such a powerful creation energy that came with that. I mean, manifestation and creation, uh, creativity, abundance,
yeah,
prosperity, health, all kinds of things that were amplified because of the other person's energetic in combination with your own, because it's really
right,
one, right?
right.
That I did notice, that I did experience.
Yeah, and I find it creates that third energy that's so
Yep.
creative and it just
Yeah.
amplifies and it's so potent.
Mhm.
How did you find out you were twin flames? So you found out early.
We did. We were doing all this spiritual work, and it was from a wonderful woman that she's on the other side now, my friend Sarah. She was a tremendous channel for Saint Germain, and
Mm.
he shared, without telling us directly, but he asked me, about a biblical lifetime that I had with my twin and who we were. And I went away and felt into that and got who that was, who the two of us were. At that time, we were both male, and shared that with him. And he said, yeah, that's who you were, both of you. And your twin flames. And he explained what that was and what the agreements were. He said, we have some things that you've agreed to do. And one of them had to do with Isis, the beautiful Egyptian goddess, not the terrorists, but Isis being at this time, that was a while ago, choosing to become physical and incarnate on the planet, rebirth herself here. And there were a number of us that were assisting with energetically with that project. And I know there's many people who are part of the Temple of Isis back in the Egyptian times, and continue on and do amazing work for the divine feminine, the Sophia, and the goddess. And so that was one of the things that we were doing with the ascended masters. I mean, we weren't just running around without any guidance. It'd be different. We had really clear, amazing guidance. And
was it guidance from channels, or did you also have visions of
both? Yeah, both. A lot of it was channel, but then, for example, there was a night when we were sleeping in our bed in Arizona. This was in Arcadia, not the one in Scottsdale. And I woke up in the middle of the night because the light was so bright. And I looked to the door in the hall. It was just this beautiful bright light. He was asleep, but I saw it. And they just, flooded this room with light.
Wow.
And I thought I had left like the hall light on, but no, it was real light. I've had, mist in the house, just a lot of experiences that are not, that are physically, you can see with your eyes. Also the ones that you can, obtain through meditation and through working with your third eye, your pineal gland opening and all of that. So yeah, it wasn't without clear guidance, I guess is the best way to put that, and clear confirmation. And
did he ever explain why he left?
Yeah, he did. He said a few things. I mean, he had and perhaps this was something for me to look at, right? We all have something to look at, don't we? I felt like I was partners with him. We were partners in a romantic way, but we were also partners in business. And so I felt like I had invested in his company, if you want to get into the real mundane stuff here, like 3D. And I felt like we were, what I felt like was an equal partnership when it came to, let's just say, financial resources and things of that nature. And he thought I was like somebody who spent too much money, honestly. And perhaps in that time I did. I'm pretty good now, but maybe I wasn't then. But I also know that I didn't have an airplane and a hangar, and I didn't have, trucks and all kinds of things that cost a lot of money, way more than I could spend on clothes or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was his way of saying no. I just, wow, okay. So
he didn't explain spiritually, because that's just quite the about face of like, I'm just gonna go to sleep now.
He did. That's what I said. He was up on, we were climbing this spiritual mountain together, and I turned around and I looked over. He was on the ground.
It's so confusing, don't you think? I mean, you've been through it with me too, like how confusing it's been. It's like, what is going on? He was so awake.
You and others. Yeah. And so I think part of it, though, too, that I know is going on, there's a lot of interference on this planet.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of interference, or continues to be, ramped up archon energies. There's a lot of interference, unseen and seen by, let's just call it what it is, the dark, nefarious side of this illusion that we're in right now, or this planet that we're ascending. There are some that just don't want us to be free, want us to be sovereign. And so they'll do whatever they can to keep their agenda intact and to not not allow all of us to be free,
Yeah.
not to express who we, we have what they want. We have DNA, we have the God spark, we have certain things that they, you know, they want. They can't get it. They can't replicate it through technology as much as they're trying to do that. Uh,
Right.
it's not replicatable that way. It's source created. So in fairness to people out there that are having a hard time, whether it's the divine and the divine, I feel the divine masculines, at least the ones that the people that I see on a regular basis doing what I'm doing at the center, they are mostly the men that are really slammed, mostly, not always, but divine masculines have had I think a really rough ride this
Yeah,
lifetime.
great.
Do you agree?
I fully agree. And I think what the guides tell me is they've hijacked the masculine timeline
Yeah,
through
yeah,
sex and porn and
yeah,
all the lower base
yeah.
things because it's
Lower.
they hold the energy of earth, the first, second, third chakras to bring that grounded energy, the earth
Mhm.
energy to the feminine, while the feminine brings heaven to earth through the upper chakras. And it's
Right.
so easy to hijack the lower chakras with the
Hmm.
distorted sexual energy or lust or greed or those,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
seven sins.
So
And so
yeah,
they
it's
get
money,
so,
sex, it's yeah,
yeah, they
all
get
that.
so looped in and it's easy to
Yeah.
hijack their timeline. And so if they keep the divine counterparts apart, then
Hmm.
that throws a wrench into the ascension process. Because I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure you agree that if
Oh
the
yeah.
counterparts to
Yeah.
come together because of that large, beautiful energy of creativity and passion and
Yeah.
ascension, if they keep it apart, then that throws a wrench in what our initial intent was. Because
What
I know
exactly?
too, I feel like you, our initial intent was to be together. Like we
Oh
used
yeah.
to talk
Yeah.
about doing this together and teaching a new way of love and bringing it in. He
Right.
was so
Right. Oh yeah.
spiritual.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, wait, now I'm just by myself?
And I think one of the hardest things for me was we both became Reiki masters and energy healers together. And it was powerful. We were doing powerful work together. And he would come through even after we were apart. He would still come in quite a bit for those sessions that I would have with other people. He would show up and, therapically.
Oh, mine would too, totally. And hold the head while I was at the feet. He
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
head.
yeah.
Mhm.
So his unlimited self knew the agreement, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
but
totally.
that was hard for me to be able to embody both energetics within myself and feel confident that I didn't need that other physical
Hmm.
person to work on whomever was there seeking assistance, right?
Agreed. I fully agree. And I think where you were saying you had that masculine polarity, I had the feminine polarity. I was so feminine that it was really challenging to me to figure out how to balance that masculine energy
That's good.
without
Yeah,
his energy in front of me.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you whichever one you're working on, you question the way you look, you question your sexuality, you question your aesthetic appearance, am I attractive? Am I somebody that somebody else is gonna want or
Mhm.
not? Or you just go through, as I
Yeah.
think the woman, especially, you just go through, maybe men go through it too, I'm sure they do. But we go through this feeling of being less than or unworthy. And so having to
Mhm.
find within us, because that's where it is, where it resides, right? That self-love and that forgiveness and that worthiness
Yeah.
to
Well, that
forgive
just
ourselves.
hit something with me with like the devastation that happens if the person that opens up that portal to God for you rejects you. Like
Right.
that's so devastating
Yeah.
for a feminine and for
Sure.
someone that
Sure.
already has trauma. It brings
Yeah.
it so.
Oh yeah.
So if
Yeah.
the most divine connection I ever have says no, thank you. It's like, what?
Right. Right.
What's wrong with me?
I know. It's like, wait a minute. So, and
Yeah.
then if you do meet them and you do marry them and you are with them for a while and you do experience what is pretty blissful, pretty amazing state that had probably never been able to be manifested, or you hadn't manifested it until you got to that place, right? It's really hard to do that on your own. It
Yeah.
does take a lot of it in these energies here, in this on this planet, with what's going on here in these energetics. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a real test, and I think people are, pretty hard, can be pretty hard on themselves. And
Mm,
I'm here to tell them to, it's okay, just forgive yourself, and but live your life. Don't be in waiting. Watch
yeah.
for the false flames. There's a lot of those too. There's, karmic
Yeah.
relationships are probably, I think, the thing that have hijacked the divine masculine the most. Let's
100%.
let's
Can
throw
you
in a karmic.
explain what karmic is to people who don't know?
Well, from my experience with it is it's somebody that feels, and it's almost like a template of the twin flame, but it isn't. It's like if you took a copy machine and you made a few copies down the road, it's like a copy of the copy. It isn't really, but it has the attributes of that.
Yeah.
So, and it's usually pretty lustful, and it's usually pretty high sexuality, passion, but there is something that is not resolved from another time and space, right? It was somebody that either, missed out with you in that another time, or you picked somebody else. There's usually some sort of, for me, I found it to be a triangle, a three trinity of energies, right? Two females and a male, whatever it might be, whatever the orientation, it doesn't matter, whatever the dynamic. But usually I've found it to be that. And it's so close to a twin, people think it's their twin. They said, this is it, this is the one, it's my twin flame, and then they go down this road and they realize it's like something that's built on quicksand.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
doesn't have that foundation from source, right?
Mm-hmm.
By source, it doesn't have that. And it's
Totally.
really hard to identify that for people that are not
Yeah.
really aware of it.
Yeah.
So
I
they,
agree.
they get hijacked, that, and then it
Mhm.
goes years. It'll go years. So
Yeah.
don't waste your lifetime. Don't waste your life. Whoever is listening that's in maybe their 20s or 30s or something, 40s, even 50s, whatever. Don't waste it. Just,
Yeah. Do you still feel his energy? Like, do you still connect to the energy, or is it just feels gone?
yeah. What I connect to quite a bit is, or I feel that I've had, one of the challenges that I've had is with my own physicality and his. If he's going through something physical, whatever it might be, let's just say it's weight gain or something, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't care what I do, I can't lose weight, because he's like that, right? So there's some dynamic with that, for me, that I've found that had to do with physicality, or if he's
Yeah.
going through a certain experience. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost like I do feng shui for people, and it's the predecessor law, right? And feng shui is so rich, right? When you go into a space, whatever happened in that space, good or bad, you want to kind of clear it and clean the slate, because you'll
Yeah.
end up, energetically picking that up in your
Yeah.
timeline. So it's
For
that.
sure.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I've noticed. I don't know about you, but that's what I've
Yeah,
noticed.
I feel physical things, and it's funny because I'm not a drinker. I don't party, and my liver hurts half the time. I'm
Really?
like,
Well,
I'm
fortunately,
like, why do I have liver issues?
what yeah, what are you drinking? Why are you drinking now?
Totally, and that's
Yeah.
what it is, and it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's so that part's funny, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because it comes and goes for me. Like he'll sometimes I really feel his energetics and I feel like that connection, then it'll just go out like the tide goes out and I don't feel anything for a while and then something will happen. But
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
most part, he's pretty gone. It's
Yeah.
just his
Yeah.
soul
Same.
has kind of
Yeah.
moved on, his higher
Yeah.
self's moved to the higher planes. The
Yeah.
physical 3D is not really
Yeah.
present, if that makes sense.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to do whatever you can in the physicality. As we know, it's easier. It's not easy, but it's easier than on the other side, out of your body, to balance some of this stuff, and do,
Hmm.
as hard as the work is here to do. It's important to do the work, right? To do the work while you're physical, because and some of the work I do as a medium, people that are wanting to connect with somebody on the other side, whether it's a parent, a brother, sister, twin, whatever it might be, if they have crossed over, and they haven't done the work, didn't get an opportunity, their life got cut short, whatever it might be, they're really, some of them get upset because they're still earthbound. And I'm like, well, they're still working on stuff. It doesn't, just because you're out of your body, you walk away with everything that you were still working on here, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Um, how did you start channeling Mother Mary?
I had a channel session with Saint Germain, and it was in Phoenix, and it was on December 12 at 12:12 p.m.
Oh, wow.
I mean, 12:12 is one of my numbers, ascension numbers. And my friend Sarah's like, she goes, she will never channel at midnight because she would be up all night. She said, he wants to talk to you. He said, there's something you need to do, or he wants to talk to you. So she brought him through, and he told me that I had an agreement in this lifetime to be a channel for one of the ascended masters. And he says, do you know who it is? And I don't know what happened, but right out of my mouth came Mother Mary.
Oh,
And so probably from the roller coaster when she introduced herself. And so he said, yes, that's who, you said you would be a channel for her and help. You're a healer, you're here to help. And I said, okay, well, if I said I would do it, I'll do it. And so he made and I recommend this for people too, because, I know channeling can get a really bad rap, and
yeah.
I don't see it that way, because I was somebody that had a positive connection and experience, and I know what I know and who's coming through, and I'm really clear about it. He gave me a protocol to use, and I use it every time she comes in, and so I know it's her, and I know it's him. And
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and so he made that energetic connection, and said, you've got to, every day you have to work with this energy and work with this connection. So it's like exercise, right? You got to exercise the muscles on the zeal point chakra in the back of the head, where they come through, and
Yeah.
really, and do the work, right?
Yeah.
Again, the work. This isn't, this stuff isn't for the faint of heart, right? I mean,
No.
it's not. Some
No.
people think it's easy, and it's
Yeah.
not an easy
Oh
path of
no, and it's a toll every day, and it's hard
every
on the
day,
physical body, it's hard on the emotional body. It's
all of it.
challenging, and you have
Yeah,
to do the work and stay centered, and yeah,
yeah.
continue to,
So,
that's what I explain when I teach people how to read the Akashic records. It's like
yep,
you create
yeah,
a pathway, and it's like the more you do it, the
mm,
stronger that pathway in that channel.
exactly. Yeah, I do that work
Yeah.
as well. And Saint Germain gave me a really great healing
Mm,
exercise that, taking someone, I'm sure you know this, Kimber, taking somebody who's had just a lot of trauma that won't resolve physically, and go into the point of origin on the Akashic record, right? I wrote about it in my book, Cougar Yoga. There's
oh
another
yeah.
about that title, but anyway, you go to that point of origin, and you change the outcome of that particular incident, and it
Hmm.
takes it forward on the timeline, and it comes into this particular timeline where you are now, and it moves the energy, basically, is the short synopsis of that healing
Yeah.
modality. And I've used it a lot. There were some things that I've gone through that I were just horrific from a health standpoint, and if I didn't have that, um, have that like little arrow in my quiver, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. So
Wow.
one of
That's
them was an ovarian cancer tumor, and that was like many years ago. But if I hadn't gone and done the healing on that metaphysical healing, I don't know if I would have made it.
oh
So
my goodness. Wow. Wow. Oh my God. Wild. So
yeah.
if like I like to spin things too, where like, okay, with the hijacking the masculine timeline, there's that opposite paradox that I've heard my twin say on the higher planes. Like when I've connected to him up here, he's like, that was the sacrifice. Like I took the lower dimensional timeline so you could come in your power in this lifetime. Because in every other lifetime, he's been like the king or he's been someone in charge. And I've been that supporting role. And so this lifetime, it's like, oh, taking that lower timeline so I could come into what I'm doing and my strength to
Yeah.
kind of balance that energy.
Mhm.
Do you have any reason why your twin went the lower that's positive, or is it just you feel like he just broke the contract?
Um, he went on to do some to get involved with some things that I'm not going to share
Yeah.
publicly, but So he obviously had an agreement, because everything happens by agreement, and especially when that agreement was broken, new contracts were made, right? He made new, obviously he wrote himself a different script, playbook. And who am I to to
Yeah.
judge or wonder why it had to go down that way?
Yeah.
But what your twin is saying about, well, I sacrificed for you and all of that. Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure it's true on some level, but if everybody's in balance, right? And
Yeah.
come to a balanced place, we don't need to do that.
Right.
You know,
No, I agree. And I'm sure it's just like something that he told me to get me through at some point when I
get
was
you
so
through.
angry.
Yeah. I know. He's like, well, I better give her something.
I better give her something to like get her on
Give
that.
her something.
But I also, I mean, I think I just see things like here's the truth, but you can see it from so many different perspectives. And
Yes. Yeah.
one thing I
And
did,
yeah. Yeah.
I noticed like not the last time I saw him, but the time before I saw him, and I was standing there and I was like, oh, he healed his family bloodline. I healed my family bloodline. And so that, at least on both of those ends,
Both sides. Yeah.
that did
Mhm.
happen. But
Yeah. Which is
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah. Don't you kind of wonder when you get to the other side and you reconnect with them, what's the conversation going to be? I,
I'm so curious.
I know. I just want to be like in a balanced place where I don't wring his neck.
Me too. Me too.
I know, right? It's like, yeah.
That was so much harder than it had to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
So amazing.
But
Yeah,
that meeting is coming, right? At some point in time, we're eternal souls. So we're going to reconnect and we'll regroup, and all of our guides will be there and let's say, well, let's do a debrief on that lifetime.
totally. 100%.
Yeah.
My thing is like, I'm not doing this again. Like the twin flame
Yeah.
journey on Earth, I'm not
Yeah.
doing it.
Now, this is it. I'm not coming back. I
Yeah,
can
me
tell you
neither.
for
Me
sure.
neither.
I
It's a
have great respect for all the bodhisattvas out there that'll stay until the very end, but
yeah.
I think after this one, I'm going to check out and not come back. So I'll help while I can while I'm here, but
Totally. I love that. This might be a random question, but what's the most mystical experience you can remember that you've had?
oh my goodness, I've had so many.
I know it's hard to pinpoint, but if you can.
Mm, um, wow. I would probably have to say it was the incident with the roller coaster, and Mary being
Yeah,
there
that's
and meeting
pretty
her.
amazing.
Yeah,
I love
I
that.
would say, even though I was young, that was pretty powerful. I've had so many other things happen too, but that was
Yeah, that's really
was
powerful. It's
it
funny because
was profound.
I
Yeah.
have my Mary altar here. You can't see it, but like I have my Mother Mary
Oh,
thing. So
I know. And you did that podcast the other night for everybody. That was wonderful of you. She was very happy about that. She
oh, thank you. Thank you. I've channeled her once and that was really profound. I thought I was gonna, it was my last retreat, and I basically said I was gonna channel Mary Magdalene. And so
uh,
because that happens every once in a while, like I don't know, not often, but every once in a while. I just let her come when she wants to. So I'm
yeah,
like in there and I'm feeling Mary Magdalene, I'm feeling Yeshua, and then all of a sudden it was the Divine Mother, and she's like, "Nope, it's me." And I was
it's
like, "Okay." And it was really powerful and really intense.
yep,
And
yep.
yeah, but that was only the one time. But so the energy is so big that kudos to you to hold that energy too, because it's so beautiful and powerful.
Yeah. Well, she probably does a little bit of a step down dance for me or something.
I don't think
She doesn't pull
I
me up.
love that. Amazing. So our last question, what advice would you give to your younger self embarking, like when you first met him, that you wish you would have known that
Um,
would have helped you so much on this journey
you mean my younger self when I met him?
when you met him?
Um, to not assume, not to make assumptions that people are where you think they are,
Mm,
you think you are on your spiritual path. As I said, he was awake, I wasn't. He woke me up, and it was like not just lighting a candle. It was like a forest fire when he woke me up. I really, really woke up, right? And I really got it. And,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. He's awake. He's like showing me all this stuff. It was profound.
Wow.
But so I just assumed, right, that he was, and he let me just go off on my spiritual path because he had the, wherewithal to work and, support me so that I could do some of those things, whether it was, art or channeling or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I just assumed he was right there with me, right, tracking right there with me, but he wasn't. And so I would say assumption can be, assuming certain things can be your downfall. So
Yeah.
not being aware completely, maybe not being grounded, present, and aware of what, especially someone who isn't a good communicator, and he wasn't. So when people are really inner, they're not, demonstrative, funny, joking, they're not effervescent and out there in terms of their personality, right? Like you and I are sitting here chatting like old friends because we are.
Hmm.
But when he wasn't like that, he was really inner. He was really quiet. He was really cerebral, and he wouldn't really tell you how he felt. So, you can fill in your own blanks, but they're probably wrong, and mine were. So assumption
Yeah. Wow.
is what I would
One
say.
last thing, I just, for some reason, this came up and I'll bring it up. And with that, like karmic energy that comes in and duplicates the energy, do you think that's part of the nefarious agenda? Because for me, that happened and it just like she came in and it was such an interesting, and I hate to use the word Lilith energy, but it's that like that
Yeah.
negative
Oh,
feminine
yeah. Mm-hmm.
energy that
Yeah.
just like hijacked so
Yeah.
deeply and threw
Yeah.
the whole thing to a loop.
Yeah, they're going to work on our work, or the things that we're working on the most. So they're going to hit us where where we're weakest, right? Our weakest point. Like, okay, balancing your checkbook. She's not good at that. Let's really get her there. Let's get her. Let's get her on
I
the
don't
money
bring that
card.
up.
I know, whatever. You know what I mean? Somebody who's here in this lifetime to work on the material plane and mastering the material plane, which I know I'm here to do that. Or I signed up for a lot of really tough lessons along that line. Or I signed up for tough lessons in relationship, or perhaps now as I'm getting older, it's health. So yeah, that's what they're going to hit you with. So if
Yeah,
you're, just in dire straits mourning about your twin flame relationship, they're going to hit you with a karmic.
yeah,
Sure, why not? That
yeah,
whatever they can do to derail us uh, is what they're, and I hate to say, but that's the agenda.
yeah.
So you have to be aware of it. You have to know how to protect yourself and not, and even more so now, unfortunately, at this juncture on the planet. As you know, we could probably do a whole show on
I would
that.
love to. If you're up for it, I would love to because I think that would be amazing. Because I do think that how can people protect themselves? And
They have told me over the last probably 5 years of our timeline here to just protect your DNA. So even though um I don't, this might be too personal TMI, but even though I'm in a relationship, because of our age difference and whatnot, and we're our age just in general, I just decided, like, I'm gonna do this sort of brahmacharya type experience, right?
yeah,
Somewhat of a celibate type existence. And
yeah, I
that's
do. And
that's not for
unfortunately,
everybody. It's
yeah,
not
it's
for
not for
everybody.
everyone.
But they did tell me to protect my DNA, and I know we all know there's a lot out there
Yeah,
um, that is trying to interrupt our DNA and hijack it.
yeah,
So
agreed.
yeah,
Agreed.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's a tough path too.
they've
For
told me the same exact thing. I've got the same
tough path.
message.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
So I just decided, well, if that's the case, this is where I'm gonna focus, right? I'll focus on helping people as much as I can and staying in balance myself and all these different things I'm working on, and hopefully just live the best life we can live in service to other people.
I love that. And I love all the work you're doing with the native elders. And it's just,
Oh, thank you. It's wonderful to be here with the Hopi elders. I was just in ceremony with the Lakota and the Hopi and the Havasupai elders here in Sedona. Yeah,
oh,
it's they're
beautiful.
beautiful beings, and it's just sacred land here. So I'm really
Yeah.
I'm
Do you have a
blessed.
past life as a Hopi?
I know I did as a Lakota. I'm not sure. Maybe you're
Mm,
picking up one on Hope. You'll have to look at that one. But I'm sure,
yeah,
yeah, I even
amazing.
have on this is a wing that was done by one of the Hopi elders who's a friend. His name is Reuben Sofke, and he carves the silver. He does the silver work. So
I love
I'm
that.
wearing his protective wing and
Chills.
my dolphins here, which are for my Palisades High School.
Oh,
In the
I
lo-
love, oh, so
so
many blessings. I mean, we
yeah,
have mutual friends who've lost everything and
I
so
know.
many friends between the two of us. It's
How
just
many
crazy.
homes, so many. I mean,
Yeah.
and I started to go like feel, I don't want to go hijack this into a fire thing, but all these homes that I've lived in the Palisades are gone. And then I remembered like first dates at Moon Shadows or something, or Chart House,
Totally.
right? And
Yeah. It's
yeah,
crazy. It's so
yeah,
crazy. But I love the connection we have and just taking it right back to the Hopi for 1 second is I was
sure.
doing a ceremony and I was in a deep meditation and all these Hopi elders started dancing around me and I could hear the drums. I could hear and then my arm was going like this and light was going up here and they said it's time for you to reclaim your ancestral native timeline. And I
Mhm.
was like, okay. And I was like, what is
Yeah.
that? And then that same day or
Mhm.
weekend, you posted that you were doing ceremony with the Hopis. And I was like, that's so cool and
That's really, yeah, the
amazing. And then
synchronicity.
I looked through
Uh,
my ancestral and I did have some ancestral DNA from it
from
was the Montauk tribe, but it was really cool. So
mhm.
I love that. But
That's
anyway, this has been so beautiful and thank you so much. I'm
thank you,
so
Kimber.
grateful.
It's such a, blessing to be with you today and your audience and wonderful people. I'm sure
Oh,
that
they're beautiful.
gravitate towards you and your beautiful message and the work you're doing too. So
Thank you. And thank you for all the work you're doing.
it's an
Thank
honor.
you.
Okay.
Amazing.
Hopefully
Okay.
we've helped some twin flames on this journey with just a little conversation here
I
today.
think so. That was beautiful. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Veil. Please like, subscribe, and share so we can grow our channel. If you have a story you would like to share, please email nandipresents@gmail.com. If you're interested in classes or personal sessions, please visit nandi.co, Nandi.co, and have a magical